Hey folks, it's Thomas from the BJJ podcast. I had a little bit of time, so I figured I'd answer a question from one of our friends, where they saw our advice for starting BJJ at 35 plus videos and answers, and they requested one for folks who are 18 and up. So just starting out, white belt, brand new in the door. No grappling experience, and I've put together about 6 points that I wanted to cover. And this is a combination of things that I generally tell people who start Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And without delay, let's begin. The number one thing that I always tell folks is that when you're starting Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and you start practicing and training in this sport, the number one thing that you are going to work on and what you should focus on is skill acquisition and not necessarily winning. Especially in practice, especially in training, it's practice, it's training. If you win, great, but did you learn anything? You know, and this will go on. This will segue into one of the points later on. Your training time is the point where you want to try things out, figure things out, and refine your technique. And a lot of times when folks have a mentality that they're going in to win, the aspect of skill acquisition suffers. So if you go into your training focusing on skill acquisition and refining your technique, in my opinion, you will not only last longer in the sport, you will actually skill up at a better pace. Point number two, be aware of your intensity. A lot of times when the upper belts tell you you're going too hard, um, it's not because we're complaining, it's because going too hard, especially when you're new in the door, can be dangerous to yourself and your training partner. Um, and the reason for that being is, one, you don't necessarily know what you're doing yet. Two, your body may not be able to handle that intensity yet because you're not in shape at this point. And by that specifically, I mean, when you start BJJ, as you start practicing, your body gets accustomed to it. Your cardio starts to pick up. But through the door, right in the door, brand new, unless you work out at that intensity, um, you risk injuring yourself, and you also risk injuring your training partners, but for slightly different reasons. Um, it could be a size difference. If you're new in the door and you're significantly larger than your training partner, and you don't know how to control yourself while you're rolling and on the ground, if you slip, you may crush them. I'm 5'8", 200 pounds, and in a lot of instances, I'm not a small dude. But there have been instances where guys who are 6'4", 270 pounds have come in and just gone full bore trying to pass my guard, especially when I'm just playing around with open guard with them, and they slip, and the full brunt of their weight and their body comes down on, say, my knees, which are bad, or my rib cage in one case, and that can cause injuries. In one specific case, there was this new guy who got frustrated. He couldn't pass my guard while I was playing open guard, so he jumped and essentially belly flopped onto my rib cage, and I popped an oblique. Not fun, but I guess that's kind of a bad example, but because he intentionally belly flopped on me. But either way, until you get accustomed to BJJ, a size difference can be an issue. Also, a skill difference. You know, um, you may get the misconception that because when you're starting out and you're still spazzy, you're still going at a high intensity, that when you roll with a higher belt, because you don't hurt them and they don't seem like they're in distress, that you can be the same way with another beginner who's just in the door. That intensity, that spazziness is not something that a lot of people who have never done grappling before are going to be used to. So because you went intense with, purple brown belt A doesn't mean that you can do the same thing with the same amount of safety with white belt B. So the skill difference can mitigate the intensity, but it simply just means that the upper belt is at a lower risk of getting injured or hurt. You, as a new guy just in the door, are still at a greater risk of hurting yourself. And why is that? The intensity thing is such a big thing, and such a big thing that I point out is because coming in the door, being brand new, your body may not be acclimated to grappling, acclimated to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, just simply may not be in shape enough to handle it the intensity that you're going. You have a high risk of pulling a muscle, popping a rib, breaking a finger. These are all things that I've seen new white belts do before they get into shape and start to calm down and realize what they're doing. And like the breaking of the fingers thing and the popping of the ribs thing is usually one beginner versus another beginner, or a single beginner going up against anybody is just going at such speed they don't realize that their fingers get caught in someone's belt, someone's lapel. You just have to be mindful for all this stuff. Just slow down, focus on skill acquisition, and you'll be good. That was actually kind of a long ramble. But anyways, point number 3, do not focus on stripes and belts. Promotion chasing will backfire on you, basically. If you're at a skill level and you're at a skill level and you're confident that you're at the point where you should be getting promoted, just wait, let the process go through its motions. You'll get the promotion. You just have to calm down and wait for it. Don't rush anything. Don't rush it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And point number four goes back into point number 2. Just get into shape. Getting into shape with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will come over time as you come to class. However, in order to truly succeed and truly have a good time, you need to go a little bit extra. Lift weights, do kettlebells, do cardio, do yoga. Do all that outside of class, and that will, make the difference between night and day. I personally stretch pretty much every day. Nothing too extreme, but I also do weights probably maybe once a week. I don't always get to the gym in order to do weights, even though I should. But I've noticed a significant improvement just with that little addition. Especially if you're someone who's not very athletic, you're gonna want to stretch or do yoga and add a weight routine to your training at least once a week, if not twice. Point 5, train gi and no gi. See if you like one or the other. It can make the difference in your interest. If you don't have any preference, really, train both. I personally, for example, I prefer gi because I have a judo background, but I also train no gi once or twice a month. All right, what else do we got? Last point number 6, always try new techniques. Don't get to the point where you're risking over specializing things. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen new practitioners of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pick something that is easy, and then they focus on that too much, and then other aspects of their game suffer. For example, I've seen a handful of guys in the last 5 years who figure out, oh, I want to be a wrist lock specialist. You can wrist lock anybody from any position. Fair. However, their guard passing suffered. Their playing guard suffered. Their other submissions suffered. Not just that, but it seemed like their perception of things outside of wrist locking just tanked. So the risk in that case, and not just in that case, the risk if you overspecialize in one move is that once people figure it out, you don't really have anything else to fall back on. So that goes back to point number one, skill acquisition. Just it's like a buffet. Pick and choose what you like, play around with it, see if you could put it together on a plate. Anyways, yeah, those are 6 things that I would tell somebody who's just starting out Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at 18 plus. Now, if you notice, there's some overlap with the 35 plus advice videos that I've made, and there's some new things in here. So, yeah, I hope this is helpful to someone. I feel like I was rambling a little bit. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions or if you have any disagreements. Put them in the comment section, and I will talk to y'all later.